Good morning. It's Tuesday, February 21st. And today I want to talk about a follow-up to the rant that I did a couple of weeks ago, which accused the U.S. government of being very lax with the PPP, the Payroll Protection Plan, and the COVID relief monies. In that rant, I said that the government didn't have a system in place. They didn't have the proper methodology in place to protect that money from fraudsters. Right? And I know I'm right. An official of the government even admitted that the programs that they set up were structured in ways that were an invitation to the fraudsters. Because right now the latest number on fraud associated with these protection plans, pandemic, and payroll is over $100 billion. And this money went to people and businesses that were very creative in the incredible scams that they came up with. That they were able to steal this $100 billion from the U.S. government. Money that was directly put aside to protect people's payroll and to protect people who were affected by the pandemic. So they weren't really stealing from the government as much as they were stealing from their own compatriots, from the citizens of this country, because when that money ran out in many cases, needy people didn't get that money. So while I was very upset with the government a couple of weeks ago, I am more upset with the villains who perpetrated these scams. These are not ordinary thieveries. It's not going in like robbing a bank or anything. You are robbing your fellow citizens. And that's a heinous crime in my mind, that people would come up with this scheme. And for what? They didn't need the money. They had stolen so much money that they spent it on cars and mansions and everything. There was one case where a guy invented a company and claimed he had 400 employees. And he got away with $13 million doing that. Didn't anybody check? No. And the government readily admits they were at fault for not checking. But the biggest fault, I think, in this situation is these greedy individuals who were prepared to rob not from the government, but from the citizens of the United States who desperately needed this money. Now, we've known about this fraud for a long time, but the size of it has now come to the forefront, and its enormous scope and its disturbing implications are just now becoming very clear to our government and the rest of the population. The criminal methodology changed depending upon the program. In the epic swindle of COVID unemployment relief, that was carried out by individual criminals or organized crime groups who used stolen identities to claim jobless benefits from the state workforce agencies. And each identity was worth about $30,000 in benefits. And then in the payroll protection plan, it worked differently. And in some cases, it produced a much larger amount of money for the thieves. Right? Because the program authorized banks and other financial institutions to make government-backed loans to businesses. And those loans were forgiven if the company spent money on business expenses. And nearly 10 million such loans have already been forgiven. And I can assure you that nobody was checking that the companies did the right thing. And then there were millions of borrowers who inflated their numbers of employees. And I told you about the guy that didn't even have any employees, but claimed 400 of them and got $13 million. So there was no verification of application or anything during the beginning of this program. It just went into the wind, willy-nilly. The money just was pissed away. And let me tell you what the government has to do about this thing. What they have instituted in order to cope and attempt to recover some of this money, which I don't know how they could recover all that much. Maybe they'll get 10% back if they're lucky. In order to find these cases, the Pandemic Response Accountability Committee is employing data scientists who use artificial intelligence to to go through over 150 million records searching for the fraud patterns. And they come up with astounding patterns that a human would take years to find. In one case, it found that a phone number for a gas station in Houston was used on 150 loan applications. Now, when it finds that kind of information, it sends that information to the federal agents who follow up on foot, because obviously those data experts, those computer scientists as they're calling them, in my day, we would have just been plain old programmers or plain old systems analysts. But now they give us a fancier name, right? A data scientist. They turn that information over to the FBI or some federal agency to follow up on foot. And hopefully the foot agents will catch the right people. So when I think about this, I'm pissed off because the billions of dollars that were stripped away from the taxpayers. And there were people who lost their jobs because their companies couldn't get money because the thieves had gotten there first. So this thing spread not across the government. You can't look at this as a robbery of the government. This is a robbery of the United States people. Of people desperately in need of money. And all the people in this country should be very angry at these thieves. And these thieves, when they are caught, they should pay an ultimate penalty. Not some 2 or 3 or 5 year term in prison for just a basic thievery. This is more than a basic thievery. This put people out of work. This affected the lives of millions of people. This is not a plain thing where I stuck up a grocery store and got the guy's daily receipts. This is a major, major crime that these fraudsters execute. And the penalty should be far higher than the normal penalty for a straight robbery. And these people will probably plead some kind of case and be allowed to walk free. When they're caught, they should be locked up in solitary confinement, put to work on a chain gang, perhaps. I can't think of any crime of this size that should be allowed to go under the normal rules and regulations of the law. There has never been so much money stolen so quickly. It's amazing that people can come up with these schemes in an instant. So I leave you with those unpleasant thoughts today, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.